Okay. Hello, I am April Moore Beasley, your mom coach for Mom's Master Plan, and I am so excited. We have a special guest here today that is going to help me dive into one of the 7 simple steps of creating Mom's Master Plan. And for those of you not familiar with a master plan is a comprehensive document that sets an overall strategy. And so Mom's Master Plan is Mom's comprehensive document for her family that sets out the overall strategy in the event that an emergency should happen or a tragedy should strike the family. Because we all know that moms make it happen. We are pretty much the visionary leaders of our homes. Our children and our families depend heavily on us just for our day-to-day. And if something should happen, an emergency or a tragedy, our family has more comfort in hearing Mom's voice than probably any other voice in the family. And so with Mom's Master Plan, that is a comprehensive document that makes sure your voice as the mother is always heard in the things that your family needs and your family's needs. And so in Mom's Master Plan, we cover 7 simple steps to creating this master plan. We cover communication strategies, estate planning, protection, where we talk about the different forms of different life insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, the things that help protect our family and our income. We also then go into budgeting, emergency funds, as well as a debt elimination strategy, and then savings. And we cover so much because it's a comprehensive document that's kept in one place for our families. And so our special guest is going to help us just kind of dive a little bit more into a better understanding of estate planning. Estate planning is the second step in Mom's Master Plan. The first 3 steps in Mom's Master Plan, communication, estate planning, and protection, sets the pace of the overall strategy. If you do not nail these first 3 steps, it is going to be very difficult to actually create the plan for the rest of the document. Not that it's impossible or that it can't happen, but it just won't flow as well if we don't nail these first 3 steps. Communication being number 1 and the most important. Estate planning being just as important, because it is pretty much, for me, in my simplest term, the written part of the communication process. So I am just thoroughly delighted to have our special guest on the call with us today, and that is Attorney Allison. Attorney Allison is a licensed attorney in the state of Illinois. She practices in estate planning. That is one of her specialties. But not only that, I am excited to have her here because she is also a mom. So who better else able to explain and understand what we as moms go through when we have to talk about such a sensitive subject. But that's why we have an attorney. You hire professionals to handle your situation. So you don't go to an attorney to look at your car. You don't go to a knee doctor to check out your heart. So don't go to your friends or somebody who doesn't even have an estate plan and ask them estate planning questions. You go to an estate planning attorney. In Mom's Master Plan, I do give you some information on the components and how it fits into the complete master plan, but I am not an attorney, and so what I do when we create the Mom's Master Plan is we prepare you to sit in front of the professionals that you need to finish out your document. So when you complete your master plan, you will have a better understanding when you sit in front of your estate plan attorney of what you need and what you need to talk about with them. You will have a better understanding when you sit in front of a financial professional of what it is that you need and what you need to be talking about, as well as in front of your insurance agent. You will have a better understanding of what types of insurance you need and what you need to be looking for. And so you don't feel like you're in front of somebody and the things that they're saying are just way over your head. So Mom's Master Plan is pretty much your first point of contact to creating that plan for your family and being able to sit and speak in front of the professionals that can help you continue on with your plan. So we have Attorney Allison here, and I am going to allow her to introduce herself, tell us a little bit about herself and her practice, and then we interview.
Hi, April. Thank you so much for having me today. I appreciate it. My name is Allison Chehosh. I'm an attorney, and I own AMC Legal, which is a law firm out of Burr Ridge, Illinois, one of the suburbs of Chicago. And I practice in the areas of business, trademarks, copyrights, but also estate planning and Medicaid planning. That's a large part of my practice. I just want to say before we get into answering your questions that please keep in mind that these answers are for your general information only and are only for Illinois residents. Every state will have different rules about the estate planning process, and this information should not be considered legal advice. Each person's situation will be different, and they should consult an attorney before creating their own estate plan. But thank you again, April, for having me today, and what questions do you have for me?
Okay, great. Okay, Allison, and I call her Attorney Allison because I always mess up her last name, and I'm like, okay, this Attorney Allison works best for me. So I reached out to a lot of my clients. A lot of people had questions about estate planning, and so to get started, let's just go over in probably the simplest format. My simplest term when I explain an estate plan is the written instructions of what you would want to happen if something was to happen to you, what you would want your family to do, how things should go. And so to me, it's Mom's voice to the family in case she's not able to speak. And that's, in my simplest terms, that's kind of how I explain it. But again, I'm not an attorney. So as an attorney, in kind of the simplest terms for us, explain what an actual estate plan is, and then we will go into the different components.
Okay, well, an estate plan is, a lot of people think, oh, it's a will or it's a trust, but it's a lot more than that. It's going to include, you, like you said, giving instructions to the family if something comes up and you're not able to speak for yourself. So you're going to have powers of attorney. So there's two powers of attorney. One is a property power of attorney and one is a healthcare one. A lot of the people are familiar with the healthcare the healthcare power of attorney. That's the one that gives instructions if you're not able to speak for yourself on how you want to be cared for medically. So do you want life supports? Who's going to be making any decisions? It doesn't have to be a permanent disability for this healthcare power of attorney. It's anytime maybe an emergency and you just can't speak for yourself or you're not able to do that. So you're deciding who's going to speak for you, and then you're giving that person directions as to what kind of decisions you want made for your behalf. So that's part of the estate plan, the healthcare power of attorney. The next is one that people aren't very familiar with, and that's a property power of attorney. And that's in the same situation if you're not able to take care of your own finances because either you're in the hospital or, later on in life, maybe you have dementia or Alzheimer's or you don't have the mental capacity, then who's going to be taking care of your finances? Who's going to be making sure that all your bills are paid while you're in the hospital, paying your property taxes, your mortgage, making sure your utilities are all paid? And so that's the person who would be able to do that. Oftentimes it's the same person for both, but you can have separate people for each one. So that's the property power of attorney. And then we get into the will and the trust, and those are the ones people have heard those terms a lot. And there are differences between the two, which we're going to get into. But you have a will which can say, who the guardians of your children are going to be if they're minors, and then the trust, which would take care of your property. There's a difference between both of them, which we're going to get in a little bit more later on. And then there's also the potential, if you want, for what's called a living will. This goes also by a DNR, do not resuscitate. I'm sure you guys have heard about that, but that's saying basically if you don't want to have life supports, then you fill this out ahead of time. Is the difference between the healthcare power of attorney is that tells your agent, the person who you elect, how you would want to be taken care of. the living will takes that away from the person that you care about making that decision, and you're speaking directly to the physician, and you're telling the physician how you want to be taken care of in that situation. So that way it kind of removes that from your family. It's not a decision by your family. A lot of people who feel strongly about not having life support will fill that out, and then it's up to the physician. Basically, they have rules as to when they would do it, of course. But then that is also potential. That's an optional one if you want that or not.
Oh, okay. And then, okay, so there's again, we just heard a couple of components of what an estate plan consists of. So since we started with that, can you give us some the other components of an estate plan?
Well, the other components, the difference would really be what's the difference between a will and a trust. That's another question that I get constantly. So a will I usually only recommend for people if, honestly, they're not going to be going through probate and they don't have minor children. So you won't go through probate, which we'll go into more detail in a little bit about what that is. But if your estate is truly $100,000 or less, and that includes life insurance, any retirement assets, also a house. So usually if you have a house or if you have life insurance, you're probably going to be over $100,000. So if you truly have a very small estate and you don't have minor children, then you can do just a will. And the will say, well, whatever's left after I pay off all my debts, who's going to receive it and how much. And so that is really kind of a simpler plan. But if you have over $100,000 or if you have children who are minors, then you are recommended to do a trust. And a trust is a document which gives the trustee the ability to handle all of your estate assets instead of a court doing it, which is what would happen in probate. So if you are able to do the trust, you can also, especially because if you have minor children, if you have minor children and you don't have a trust, you're just doing a will, they're going to receive everything in a lump sum when they turn 18. I don't know about you, but most people don't want to have their children when they turn 18 inherit everything, and they can spend on whatever they want, and it probably won't last very long, unless, of course, they go through your class, April.
Right.
They have training and they're brought up just right. But even so, at 18, you're just not making good decisions. You can even have the best intents and intentions and still have the money be lost. So this way, if you have a trust, you can say, okay, take care of my children until they turn 18, their basic needs. You can say that they will receive money for their education, so you can fund their college education through the trust. And then oftentimes people say, okay, well, once they reach the age of 25, either then they can receive the lump sum, or at that point they get maybe a third of it, and then they get another third at 30, another third at 35. With a trust, you can really do however it is you want. I've had one client say $1,000 a month. Until they reach a certain age, and then a lump sum. It's so flexible, which is the great thing about a trust. And then it, of course, avoids probate. Probate, a lot of times, that's just a word that's thrown around, and nobody really knows what it is, but they know it's not a good thing. So what happens in probate is if you don't have a trust, or if you have a will and your estate is over $100,000, that's where the court's going to step in. And they're going to say, they're going to first publish your will if you have one. So it becomes public information. It actually does get published in a paper what your will is, and the details will be public. But that's how they notify for any creditors. So if you owe anyone money, that's where they have their opportunity to come to the court and make a claim against your estate. So if you owe a mortgage, that's when they would come and say, hey, pay us off the mortgage before you divvy out all the money to their beneficiaries. So that's part of probate. Another part would be guardianship if you didn't set that up ahead of time with a will. And so they have 6 months to come and make these claims against your estate. So it takes at the very, very minimum, and that's if no one steps forward, 6 months to go through probate. Usually a year, 2 years. It's a lot longer if you have real estate that's in there. And in this real estate market, it may take longer to sell. I have heard rumors of 7-year plus probate estates going through because they just can't sell the properties. So that's something that, you're paying attorney's fees, you're paying court costs, and you're reporting to the court every few months just a status hearing on those things. So it's something that's costly, and you really just don't want to have to go through it if you don't have to. And the great thing is you don't have to if you do the trust or if you do your proper estate planning.
Okay, so pretty much the will, if you don't have minor children and you just want to let everybody know what they receive and what my final wishes are. But a trust is more detailed. You can, in a trust, you have the flexibility as a mom to pretty much continue your voice and take care of your family like you would if you were here, because you will let them know what it is that they need to do, how this should be distributed. You know, most moms pay the bills and take care of the finances, so that's another place where they can continue to help their family and help them through the transition if anything should happen to mom, and really give the details in the trust. So that's good to know.
Absolutely.
And all of these kind of make up the estate plan, but everybody doesn't need everything, correct?
Right. Yeah. Like I said, if you really do have the assets under $100,000, I mean, there's really not a need for you to do a trust if you don't have minor children. So, you know, it's and then not everyone wants a living will, or, you know, everyone's is going to be unique. I've never had in my entire career doing estate planning two that are very alike. There's always modifications and changes to everyone's.
Right. And that's why it's so important. In my program, I just pretty much help them understand the components, but you really have to sit down and speak to an estate planning attorney, someone that specializes in this, so that they can help you through the minor details.
Right, and they'll be able to explain everything to you as well, because you can do a lot of research and just still not really fully understand how it works.
Right, right.